Mr. Chairman, thank you for inviting me to be here today. And hello, everyone. It is great to be in the great state of Texas. Now, I am told that Plano is actually home to great pizza. They didn't mention fruit, they just mentioned pizza. I have to taste it to believe it. Thin crust, burnt, and pepperoni, and I'll pick it up on the way out. Thank you. There are a lot of reasons to love Texas, including Willie Nelson, who I once met in New York City, believe it or not. We had a nice chat, but for the record, I did not go inside his tour bus. Now, they say that everything in Texas is bigger than any place else, but I will just note that the Republican share of the vote here keeps shrinking. And you deserve a lot of credit for that, so give yourself a round of applause. As Alberto said, in 2020, we have a chance to make history by turning Texas blue and turning the page on this era of nasty division and utter incompetence that President Trump has saddled the country with. But let me start by addressing the real elephant in the room. I realize that some people may say, do we really want a general election between two New York billionaires? To which I say, who's the other one? If ever there was someone who is all hat and no cattle, it's Donald Trump. Now, it's true I'm a New Yorker, but that's the only thing I have in common with President Trump. I didn't inherit my money. My father, as a matter of fact, never made more than $6,000 a year in the best year of his life. I went and started a company from scratch. Trump's father gave him $1 million to get going. I'm not sure that my father could count that high, much less have the money. I didn't play a CEO on reality TV. I actually worked as one. And I have to tell you, I look at the way he runs the White House, and all I can think is, if he was running my company, he would have been fired the first month on the job. He doesn't know the first thing about what good management is. Now, I also, differentiating myself from him, I have never filed for bankruptcy, not even once. He did it 6 times. And I've never cheated my charity out of money. How unethical can you be? You just can't make this shit up. I shouldn't have said that. I told my staff I wouldn't say it that way. Every year, I give away virtually all of my company's profits to address the big challenges that we face, including education and gun violence and climate change. And unlike the president, I face facts and follow data that tell me the truth. That approach has always seriously served me well in business and government, and I know that it can work in Washington as well. And that's really why I want to go to Washington and see if I can't make this country better for my kids and my grandkids and for you and yours. Now, the fact of the matter is, and here's where we get to the serious stuff, we cannot afford 4 more years of President Trump's reckless and unethical actions. He is a dangerous threat to this country, to our values, and our national security. And I do believe that if he wins another term in office, we may never recover from the damage. And that's why I'm running for president, because we need to defeat Donald Trump and start uniting and rebuilding America. We cannot wait any longer. Across this country, we are suffering from a lack of national leadership on all the big issues we face. For example, we have an economy that is tilted against most Americans. In Texas, the minimum wage is still $7.25, whereas in New York, we succeeded in raising it, and I'm glad to say that it is now $15 an hour, as it should be nationwide. You know, you got to think about this a little bit. It's really impossible to feed a family on $7.25, no less buy things to put under the Christmas tree. We also here in this country have a health system that costs too much and doesn't cover everyone, including almost 1 in 5 in Texas, Texans who don't have insurance. It's just you can't live this way. People have to be able to go to a doctor and find out what's wrong and get cured. We have an immigration system that is cruel and dysfunctional, and everyone knows walls aren't going to fix that. Yes, you can applaud. We have a climate crisis that is just growing worse every single day. Houston had 3 100-year floods in the past few years alone. If Noah were around today, he'd be building the biggest ark in the history of the world. And we have a president who, when he hears these facts, just puts his head in the sand. Just can't live this way. Of course, over this campaign, I'll tell you what I will do as president and what I want to emphasize the word do, because to me, leadership isn't about making big promises or shaking your fist at the world. It's about bringing people together and getting things done. And I want to give you just a few quick examples of things that I know we can do. I know we can create safer communities and reduce incarceration across America. Why do I know that? Because we did it in New York. We cut crime by 32%, we cut murders by half, and we reduced incarceration by 39%, even while it went up in the rest of the country. I know we can fix schools across America. Why? Because we did it in New York. We raised the graduation rates by 42%, raised teachers' salaries by 43%, and we turned around a broken school system that had been failing students for generations. I know we can fight poverty and create good jobs across America. Why do I know that? Because we did it in New York. We created 400,000 jobs, and New York was the only large U.S. city where poverty didn't increase during my 12 years in office. I know we can make progress on climate change across America. Why? Because we did it in New York. We cut the city's carbon footprint by nearly 14%, which was twice the rate as the rest of the country. Now, of course, we didn't do everything perfectly or solve every problem, but we did come a long ways. When I was first elected mayor, we were still recovering from the tragedy of 9/11. By the time I left office, New York was stronger than it has ever been. I've spent some time here in the great state of Texas over the years. My first job out of school, I came here every 2 weeks to service the Republic National Bank of Dallas, Texas. Who knew I was going to outlive the bank? Today, my company has 2 big offices in Texas, one in Houston and one in Dallas. And last year, eat your heart out with this, I had the honor of giving the commencement speech at Rice University, one of the great universities in the country. But as great as Texas is, and it is great, this is also a state where you can be fired or barred from adopting a child because of who you love. It's a state where votes are suppressed, where families are separated, and immigrant children are locked in cages, and where America's epidemic of gun violence can be seen on the streets of every city, in Walmarts, and even in churches. We have to right those wrongs. And if I'm lucky enough to be president, I promise you I will. In addition to doing business in Texas, I've been active politically here too. I've worked with, and my foundation has supported, a variety of mayors across the state, including Castro, who was a great mayor of San Antonio. I was also glad to support Lizzie Fletcher and Colin Allred in their campaigns for Congress. They were among the 21 House candidates I supported and worked to elect, which flipped the House to the Democrats, giving this country at least some of the oversight of the president that the Founding Fathers had designed into the Constitution. And I also want to congratulate all of you for flipping 12 state House seats and 2 state Senate seats. All of those campaigns have led to a Republican exodus from Congress that is so big it had to be called Texdocious. But even though he didn't win, Beto O'Rourke showed that a Democrat can win statewide in Texas. And from what I hear, Republican leaders in Texas are scared stiff that we will nominate a candidate who can rally Democrats and win over independents and disaffected Republicans, and that's what I've been doing my whole career, and that's what I'm going to do. And the way I see it, Texas is the biggest battleground state, and I'm going to fight like hell to win its 38 electoral votes. If I'm the nominee, I'll be investing in a statewide campaign that will support candidates up and down the ballot. So we not only send a Democrat to the White House, but we also send a Democrat to the U.S. Senate and win the Texas House, too. Thank you. While all the other candidates are focused on other states, President Trump is campaigning right here in Texas and in other battleground states around the country. We cannot afford to ignore swing states until Super Tuesday, and I'm not going to do that, not by a long shot. I'm going to campaign in every one of the swing states. I'm running digital advertising against President Trump in them right now, and I'm also funding efforts to register voters in states like Texas so every voice is heard at the ballot box. And while I'm not going to take a penny of money from other donors or special interests, you can rest assured I will not spare a penny to defeat Donald Trump here in Texas and help elect Democrats statewide next November. Now, you know, I said I just don't like these people that just promise but don't do. Let me tell you, I know I can beat the president because I've already done it. I've taken him and the NRA on over gun violence, and we won. The organization I co-founded, Everytown for Gun Safety, has won stronger gun laws in states across the country. I've taken him and the biggest polluters on over climate change, and I've led an effort that has closed more than half the nation's dirty coal plants. I've also taken him and the tobacco industry on over e-cigarettes use by children, and we're now winning battles in the state at the local level. Throughout my life, I've taken on the biggest opponents and the toughest fights. Beating Donald Trump and getting our country back on track is the fight of our lives. And together, we can make Texas the knockout punch. Let me close by saying that as a child and a Boy Scout, I was taught to believe in the promise and potential of America and in the openness of the American dream. America is at its best when we work together to find meaningful and lasting solutions to the big challenges we face. I'm tired of this country being where we don't talk to each other, where the president just divides us. The president, once he or she gets elected, is not supposed to be the head of the party, but the head of the whole country. And we've got to stop pulling people apart and start bringing this country together. And that's what I promise I will do. In the months ahead, I will announce my plans to address all the big issues facing the country. But more than plans, what I offer is the leadership to turn the plans into reality. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and motivate people to come together so we can rebuild America and make it fairer and better. I know how to do that. That's what I've done all my life. Pulling people together, focusing them, making sure they work together and deliver results for the people that they're supposed to serve. I'm ready to get working. I know you are too, and I hope to be your partner turning Texas blue once and for all in 2020. Thank you, and God bless.
Let me just tell you how committed Mayor Bloomberg is. I was on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I shut down my law office early and started the barbecue pit going. And I was going to make some ribs and sausage and so forth. Sat down and opened up a beer of El Chingon beer. That's what it's called. It's IPA, right? And I was sitting there drinking the beer, and my phone rings, right? And there's a New York City phone number, right? And I answered the phone. I said, "Hi, this is Gilberto Hinojosa." And he said, "This is Michael Bloomberg." And I had already had half of that Chingon beer, so I wasn't really. And so I chuckled and I said, "Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York City?" And he chuckled and he said, "Yes." And so we spoke for about 15 minutes on the phone. Didn't ask me to support him, just wanted to talk. And then finally I said, "We're having a meeting on December the 7th. Would you like to come and address the folks?" And he said, "You know what? I'm going to try to come." And on this week, they let us know he was going to be here. He showed up today. This is the first presidential candidate to address our group, and we thank you so much for being here, and it shows that commitment, and you're welcome to come back anytime, Mayor.
Now I'm going to go outside and get that pizza. God bless and thank you very much.